Welcome to the 12th episode of Granth Yatra. In the last episode, we enjoyed the poetry written by Shahir poets during the Peshwa rule in Maharashtra. The early phase of that period was marked by prosperity and fame. Almost entire India was under the spell of the Maratha Velar. Shahir Ram Joshi describes this period as ब्राह्मणी राज्य जोरदार घोड्यावर स्वार होते शिपाई जबरसती कैकांनी पाहिली शत्रु ठेवले नाही. During the reign of the Brahmin rulers, the soldiers were mounted on horses. Many had seen their bravery and there were no enemies left. But during the reign of Nana Sahib Peshwa, winds of misfortune began to flow from the north. Marathas had to face the enmity of the rulers of the north such as Langda Pathan, Najib Khan Rohila, Suja-ud-Dawla, and finally Kandahar's king Ahmad Shah Abdali, which ultimately culminated in the Battle of Panipat. These political circumstances, the battles resulting from them, and the destruction at the Third Battle of Panipat has been described in the book Bhausahebanchi Bakhar, which is the topic of today's discussion. Bakhar is a unique form of literature in Marathi. Historians believe that it is a distortion of the Persian word khabar. Bakhar writing began before the period of King Shivaji. Several Bakhars were written on the life of the king and later during the Peshwa rule. This is a kind of literature that exists on the borderline between historical truth and fantasy. Because of their writers' love for imaginary reality and miracles, exaggerations and vague or incorrect documentation of time, place, and the names of people, many experts do not attribute any historical value to Bakhars. However, their literary value is indisputable. The writer of Bhausahebanchi Bakhar is unknown. At the beginning of the book, he mentions that he wrote this report in Delhi on the direction of his master. The Bakhar begins with the siege of Surajmal Jat's fort of Kumbheri by Raghunath Rao, the brother of Nana Sahib Peshwa. Khande Rao, the son of Malhar Rao Holkar, dies in this battle. Malhar Rao is devastated by the loss of his only son. The writer narrates this incident as follows. Malhar Rao felt as if he was struck by a bolt of lightning or as if a mountain had fallen on his head. He was overcome with grief and became disoriented. When he emerged from this grief, Malhar Rao pledged to either kill Surajmal Jat or commit suicide in river Yamuna. To find a way out of this impending calamity, Anasuya, the queen of Surajmal, advised him to seek protection from another Maratha knight, Jayaji Shinde. Heeding the scriptures that advise granting protection to anyone who seeks it, Shinde promised to protect his life despite the danger of incurring the wrath of his own master. And thus began the chain of political conspiracies that would culminate in the inevitable devastation. The writer signals that this drop of honey would now attract a host of calamities. The incident leads to rivalry between Shinde and Holkar. But Holkar steps back and Raghunath Dada enters into a treaty with Surajmal Jat, collects the payment and returns home. Shinde receives a request for help from a ruler in Marwad and proceeds there. The scenes of the resulting battle provide a vivid description of the norms of the battle prevalent 250 years ago. They bathed and bid goodbye to each other. Then they wore armors and helmets and tightened their belts. And gunpowder was distributed among the forces who loaded their guns. Then at the auspicious time, they marched and saw good omens on the way. It was a 30,000 strong force which was then divided into two parts. One was led by Dattaji Shinde and the other by Jayaji Shinde. And then they met the enemy forces. This Bakhar contains several such battle scenes, but each of them is uniquely different and very convincing. As the battle began, there was smoke and dust everywhere. They could not see each other's faces. Horses and men went deaf by the noise of the machines. When the forces met and the horses from each side entered the opposite flanks, the beauty of that battle is known only to those who witnessed it. First, there was the shower of fire. It then subsided and sword fights began. The enemy was Rajput and that too Marwadis. Their bravery was not surprising. But the Marathas too fought with gallantry. Never before they had fought such a battle. Mallar Rao's courage was unmatched. Many mighty ones fell, and it was like an apocalypse. 500 to 700 Maratha soldiers fell. About 250 were wounded. 500 to 700 horses died. 2,000 died on the side of the Marwadis. Some of their guns were destroyed. Such descriptions imprint the dominance and bravery of the Marathas on readers' minds. We get acquainted with the contemporary political situation, the interpersonal relations of the Maratha knights, their petty fights, and their obeisance to the Peshwa. At the same time, the Maratha policy of valuing their word and perceived honor over diplomacy creates an uneasy restlessness in our minds. Possibly, this is the result of the otherwise objective writing of the Bakhar, interspersed with ominous sayings. A different conspiracy is being hatched in Delhi around this time. Ghazuddin Khan, the Wazir of Delhi's emperor, but who is appointed by the Marathas, has a chieftain called Najib Khan. He wins the confidence of the Wazir and grows in strength. The Queen of Delhi's emperor, who has been weakened by the raid of Nadir Shah, appeals to Najib Khan to liberate the throne of Delhi from the dominance of the Marathas. Najib Khan realizes that none other than Ahmad Shah Abdali, the ruler of Kandahar, is capable of defeating the Marathas, and he invites him to raid Hindustan. And thus begins the conspiracy to destroy the Maratha dominance spread across the land from Attock in the north to the Nizam's kingdom in the south. We all learn about the Battle of Panipat in school. I too was aware of it as part of our history or as a sad chapter of the history of Maharashtra. But after reading this Bakhar, that whole period, the chain of plots and conspiracies that had started much before the actual battle, and the people who would change the course of history and determine the fate of thousands by their decisions, came alive in my mind. The difference between impersonal descriptions in the history textbooks and an account written by a person who was, even if remotely, associated with the actual events became starkly apparent. Characters such as Ghazuddin Khan, the Wazir of Delhi who reached Agra by swimming in the Yamuna at night when Abdali's forces attacked Delhi, Raghunath Rao who led his forces up to Lahore and liberated the kings held in captivity by Abdali, the cunning Najib Khan who sought Holkar's protection by declaring himself his godson, Suraj Jat who felt humiliated by Raghoba's stern behavior became more real. I began to understand the thought processes behind their decisions. As the story progresses, Najib Khan makes false promises to the Marathas and joins hands with Sujat-Dawla, Adam Khan Langda Pathan, Madhav Singh Jayanagarkar, Vijay Singh Marwadi, and once again invites Ahmad Shah Abdali to attack the Indian territories. Unaware of this conspiracy, Dattaji Shinde decides to visit Sujat-Dawla. His wife Bhagirathi Bai advises him against this move. She tells him, Abdul Ali Durrani descended on Lahore from Attock with a 40,000 force. Our forces scattered away. There is no word of the fate of our forces in Punjab. You are well aware of all this. In addition, Adam Khan Pathan is ready with a force of 10 to 15,000 and he is an ally of Abdali. Sujat-Dawla, who belongs to a Demon clan, is also ready with a 50,000 force and has positioned 300 big guns on the bridge. Najib Khan is also ready, fighting with us with 20,000 force. They have surrounded us from all sides. You are blind with the false pride of your wealth and confidence. Should we women and children wait until we are captured by Durrani and turned into slaves? This is illustrative of the fact that even during medieval India, women were well versed with the contemporary political developments. Abdali's forces move ahead and defeat several Maratha chieftains. After assessing the situation, Bhagirathi Bai decides to return home along with the wives and children of other officers. Dattaji Shinde reaches Delhi and camps at Majnu Ka Tilla. Finally, the Shinde forces come face to face with Abdali's army on the banks of the Yamuna. Bayaji Shinde, who had been defeated by Abdali's forces in Lahore, and Maloji Shinde are killed in the ensuing battle. When the 40,000 strong Durrani forces cause heavy casualties on the Marathas, Tanaji Kharda advises Dattaji to take down the flag and retreat. But Dattaji's honor would not allow it. He replies, "If I die, the world is lost to me. But if I lose my honor, who survives? If we lower the flag now, the soldiers will desert the battle and run away. I will be left with no face." During the battle, Janakoji Shinde is badly wounded. On hearing the news, Dattaji and the special battalion accompanying him plunge into the Durrani forces and fight with all their might. Dattaji is severely wounded and falls off his horse. Qutub Shah is overjoyed to learn this and gets down from the elephant he is riding. He approaches the injured Dattaji and asks, "Patel, will you continue to fight with us?" Dattaji retorts back, "If I survive, I will fight." Qutub Shah is angered by this response and beheads him. The Maratha army stages a retreat with the injured Janakoji Shinde. Imagine the mettle of these people. Where did they get the courage to gallop into a 10,000 strong enemy force while the battle raged on either side and embraced death? Even those who escaped and returned were no less courageous. The 9-month pregnant Bhagirathi Bai, who rode for several miles non-stop all through the night. The 18-year-old Kashi Bai, who showed the presence of mind and ordered the soldiers to take along only the valuables and burn the rest of the provisions, while riding close to the palanquin carrying her wounded husband. Janakoji Shinde, who travelled without the help of any anesthetic drugs, with his bone protruding out of his arm, he reached Ujjain, recovered, and went back to fight Abdali. It is impossible to imagine the determination, the inspiration, and fortitude of these people. For several days later, Holkar and Janakoji Shinde engaged Abdali's forces in guerrilla warfare. However, Holkar's forces suffered heavy losses in one of these battles. When the news of Dattaji Shinde's martyrdom reached the Peshwa, his brother Sadashiv Rao Bhau set out on the campaign of North India. When he reached Delhi, he had a fallout with Surajmal Jat. Ignoring the advice of Shinde and Holkar, he smashed the throne of Delhi and used its silver to mint coins. The writer of the Bakhar calls this act destructive and indicative of the approaching calamity. There was an earthquake following this act. People began to rue and asteroids fell to the earth. Descriptions such as this are indicative of the influence of Puranas on the writers of the Bakhars. Let us hear from Dr. Vidya Gauri Tilak about the inspiration behind writing this Bakhar.
भाऊसाहेबांची बखर ही इतर बखरींप्रमाणेच आपल्या धन्याच्या आज्ञेचं पालन करणं याच हेतून लिहिली गेलेली आहे. याचे नेमके लेखक कोण आहेत याच्याविषयी मतभेद आपल्याला दिसतात. म्हणजे चिंतामण गोविंद किंवा कृष्णाजी शामराव यापैकी एका लेखकानं आपले स्वामी गणेशपंत स्वामी किंवा व्यंकप्पा नाईक दिंडोरे यांच्या आज्ञेप्रमाणे उत्तर हिंदुस्थानातल्या या युद्धाची हकीकत तपशीलवार अशा पद्धतीनं आपल्या धन्याला लिहून कळवलेली आहे. 2 वेगवेगळ्या प्रतीमध्ये स्वामी आणि सेवक यांच्या 2 वेगवेगळ्या जोड्या तिथं नोंदवलेल्या दिसतात. नावं वेगळी असली तरी प्रेरणा एकच आहे. आणि प्रेरणा काय? तर ह्या उत्तर हिंदुस्थानातल्या या हे जे काही समर घडलेलं आहे त्याची हकीकत कळवायची आहे. त्याविषयीची जी काही नोंद आहे, निर्देश आहे, तो मात्र एकसारखा आहे. नावं वेगळी असली तरी मजकूर तो सारखाच आहे. की नजीब खान रोहिला हा साधा एक जणू बुद्धिबळातल्या प्याद्यासारखा साधा सैन्यातला शिपाई त्याचा फर्जी कसा झाला याची हकीकत धन्याला समजून घ्यायची आहे. आणि ही हकीकत का महत्वाची आहे? तर दक्षिणेतल्या हिंदू पदशाहीचा अ, अ, सत्ताधीश शाहू छत्रपती यांचा प्रधान तो 1.25 फौजेनिशी उत्तरेकडे गेलेला असताना त्याच्यावरती मात झालेली आहे आणि जणू काही प्यादे मात झालेली आहे आणि ही कशी झाली? ह्याच्याविषयीचा प्रश्न पडलेला आहे आणि ह्या प्रश्नाचं उत्तर सेवकाकडून मागितलेलं आहे. लेखकानं आपण ह्या आपल्या धन्याच्या इच्छेनुसार ही हकीकत कळवतो आहोत असं नोंदवलेलं आहे. हा आज्ञापालनाची प्रेरणा ही जरी असली तरी दुसरी एक गोष्ट आपल्याला जाणवते की हा लेखक कुणीही असला तरी सुद्धा तो यातल्या काही प्रसंगांचा तरी निश्चितपणानं साक्षी आहे आणि आपले हे अनुभव त्याला नोंदवावेसे वाटतायत, सांगावेसे वाटतायत ही त्याची प्रेरणा सुद्धा तिथं जाणवते. ज्या तऱ्हेचं जिवंत चित्रण बखरीमध्ये या आढळतं त्यावरून हे लक्षात येत राहतं. आणखी एक गोष्ट इथं नोंदवण्याजोगी आहे की हे कसं घडलं याच्याविषयीचा प्रश्न त्याच्याही मनामध्ये जणू काही असावा. कारण भाऊसाहेबांविषयी आणि अन्य वीरांविषयी त्याला आदर आहे. भाऊसाहेब केवळ अवतारी पुरुष अशा तऱ्हेचे उद्गार तो काढतो आहे. या अशा वीराचा असा पराभव का झाला? हा प्रश्न जणू त्याच्या मनात आहे आणि काही एक अन्वयार्थ तो आपल्या मनाशी जुळवू पाहतो आहे. हा अन्वयार्थ विशद करून सांगत असताना त्यानं आपल्या कल्पनेतले काही रंग सुद्धा आपल्या म्हणण्याच्या पुराव्यासाठी पाठबळ त्याला मिळण्यासाठी तिथं भरलेले आहेत. आणि त्यामुळे ह्या बखरीचा धागा हा ह्या स्वतंत्र असा अन्वयार्थ लावण्याच्या प्रयत्नामुळे पुराणांशी जुळतो असं आपल्याला दिसतं. केवळ इतिहासाची नोंद असं तिचं स्वरूप न राहता ती एक साहित्यकृती बनायला लागते. तेव्हा ह्या प्रेरणांचा विचार कशासाठी करायचा? तर केवळ ऐतिहासिक घडामोडींची नोंद एवढंच एक कोरडं निवेदनपर अशा तऱ्हेचं हे लेखन न राहता त्याच्यामध्ये मानवी रंग भरले जातात. एक कलात्मकता त्याच्यामध्ये यायला लागते. ह्या दृष्टीनं हे महत्वाचं आहे आणि पाहण्याजोगं आहे.
Subsequently, Bhau Sahib attacked and conquered the fort of Kunjpura. On hearing the news, Abdali lost no time in crossing the Yamuna and descending on the plains. He captured a Maratha platoon of messengers and killed them mercilessly. As a result, Sadavji Rao Bhau abandoned the plan of returning to Delhi and set up camp at Panipat. Abdali's forces surrounded the Marathas from all sides. They managed to stop their supply of provisions. Bhau Sahib's army began to starve. He summoned the treasures from Delhi, but Abdali's forces captured the messengers and looted it. People began to lose hope. Finally, it was decided to attempt a breach of the enemy siege and reach Delhi. The forces were arranged in a battle formation and left the base in the dead of the night. Arrangements were made for the protection of the non-fighting members who had joined the forces with the intention of pilgrimage. Bhau Sahib's wife Parvati Bai, Nana Sahib's mother and wife, wives of other officers were seated on the elephants. One skips a heartbeat when reading this desperate departure. The subsequent description of how the fighting began at the crack of the dawn and how Bhau Sahib and Vishwas Rao, the Peshwa's son, got down from their elephants and mounted their war horses is read with bated breath. The reader can gauge the scale of this war from the description of the simultaneous charge by the Rohillas on Ibrahim Khan Gardi, Shujaud-Dowla's attack on Shinde and Holkar with 300 large guns and 50,000 troops, Vishwas Rao's death from a gunshot, and the desertion by Maratha soldiers. Bhau Sahib fought for an hour and a half. When he was hidden in the swelling crowds, his troops began to get disoriented. They could not decide which way to run. The pit got filled with men. Bhau Sahib continued to shout instructions till his voice gave way. The writer describes the scene thus: There can be no other fighter as valiant as Bhau Sahib. Only 1,000 to 1,200 troops had stayed put. The sky had turned white all around, and they ran in all directions. Janakoji Shinde was near Bhau Sahib, and there were about 100 to 150 soldiers near Vishwas Rao's body on the elephant. The enemy surrounded them with heavy reinforcements. They fought hard. Bhau Sahib fought like the legendary warriors, but gradually he became helpless. Durrani and Najib Khan attacked him with 10,000 of their 40,000 strong foes. The fight that ensued had no parallel in the past, nor will it ever be replicated. He stood his ground despite being surrounded by the enemy. Then they fought with all their might. What fate Bhau Sahib and Janakoji Shinde met with was never known. No one saw them, and they seemed to have disappeared into thin air or swallowed by the earth. Even the gods cannot fathom this secret, what to say of men. On the other hand, Holkar escaped the battle accompanied by 25 riders. Bhau Sahib's wife got down from the elephant she was riding and began to run. She hailed a horse rider and requested him to save her. He galloped away with her and managed to take her away from the battle scene. Nana Fadnavis's mother was captured by the enemy. His wife took off her royal robes, put on some torn clothes, smeared mud on her body, and managed to run away. The Durrani forces followed the escaping soldiers. They beheaded those who had fallen into the pit. Those who managed to escape ran away in different directions. Thousands of men and women were captured and killed by the enemy. Several high-ranking generals were killed. Even their dead bodies could not be retrieved. The next day, the enemy forces massacred thousands of people in the city of Panipat and near Bahadurgarh. About 5,000 people from the Maratha forces managed to reach Delhi. They were looted on the way, and even their clothes were taken away. On learning their plight, those stationed in Delhi decamped with them, leaving the substantial treasures behind. All these people reached Bhindi on the 11th day in a starving, broken condition. The Jats of Bharatpur provided them with the much needed help and provisions. The gravity of this war had not registered on the mind even from the large number of casualties. But a reading of this Bakhar brought home the poignant nature of the event. It has been 250 years since the Third Battle of Panipat. Yet I felt restless on reading Bhau Sahibanchi Bakhar. I was deeply saddened to read about the plight of 125,000 Marathas who were present at Panipat then. And yet, every Marathi-speaking person and every lover of history should not only read this book but contemplate on it. We should introspect if we learned a lesson from the defeat at Panipat or if we continue to make the same mistakes. Do tell us if you have resolved to read this book that describes one of the most important events in the history of Maharashtra. And to make this information available to others, do like, share, and subscribe to our channel. We shall meet again next week to get introduced to a new form of literature. Until then, keep reading.